Good morning. My name is Michael Schumann. I am the coordinator of the Karmic Margin Call project. Today is December 12th, 2021. It's about 6:42 in the morning. So welcome to my year-end presentation for the Karmic Margin Call project. And I am entitling this presentation, How Time Banking Makes the $1 Quadrillion GDP Possible. So I'm keeping my voice down really low because my wife and my two kids, my baby, are sleeping. And I think that's a good thing because what I would like to impress upon everybody today is that accomplishing this major goal, accomplishing this paradigm shift, it doesn't require a lot of noise. It doesn't require a lot of pomp. It doesn't require a big presentation. As you're going to see, it's just going to be me speaking to you through my Zoom room. And I put together a little bit of a presentation, a little bit of a slideshow presentation, just to kind of help, articulate some of the ideas. But the truth does not need a big production. The truth is simple. And what we are looking to do is just change the conversation. So everybody out there is trying to sell themselves, competing over which ideology is the best one. Everybody has a proprietary solution. But my intention today is to change the conversation in terms of having stewardship conversations. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in this presentation is stewardship. What is stewardship? So for me this year, I've just come out of 2021 really logging a lot of hours, having deeper conversations about deep democracy, about mental health, about how to reapproach the education system so that it's more equitable. Everybody has an equal say. There's not these controlling relationships. So I'm coming out of this year, 2021, learning about fellowship culture, sharing what I've learned about fellowship culture. And this year, going into 2022, we're going to focus on generating the data around that. Generating, what are the values that people are looking for? What do we have to start talking about, or what are the conversations that we are still looking to have in order to change the paradigm, in order to change the power structure? So I'm going to take the next 12 days. I'm going to give take 5 minutes and come back here to my kitchen and give you the next 5 minutes of this report. So I'm looking at my notes now. And I think I touched on everything. The reason why, this is being created now at this time, why this information is coming into play is, again, for me, the proprietary solutions just are not working anymore. It's very difficult to go to a job or function in the education system. And, there's just not any transparency at the moment. And paradoxically, that is what I believe needs to happen in order to shift from a debt-based system to one where everybody flourishes, where we're living in abundance and not trying to control each other, is having more conversations around transparency. So I am going to share my screen and go through a little bit of this presentation. And again, if anything resonates, I will encourage you to email me at admin@karmicmargincall.com. So this is my presentation for the 2021 year-end report powered by WINfinity. So I will talk a little bit more about what WINfinity is later in this presentation. Again, my name is Michael Schumann. I am the coordinator of the Karmic Margin Call project. So this is the year-end report. Again, I am just going to take, the next 12 days and give you 5 minutes of the next part of this report. So I'm going to take you along my journey about what I've experienced this year, go into some of the history around our conversations and the initiative. And we're going to talk about how a quadrillion dollar GDP, global GDP, becomes possible by observing our time, by observing our conversations. So there are 6 conversations that I have really delved into this year, and they are variation on Peter Block's conversations, Peter Block's 6 conversations. I learned this from Trey Ashley Guerin and the WINfinity process. And I have found that this is how you change the conversation. Observing, these 6 conversations changes the dynamic and helps people in the group to temporarily relinquish roles and positions and representations in order to have more human conversations. And the first conversation is appreciation. So when everybody is starting to occupy the same space and listening for, what is the value, what do they appreciate about even somebody that they might have disagreements with, you start to find the values that emerge, between that group, between that very diverse group of people. The next conversation is possibility. That's where, you silence your critical mind and you start coming up with ideas about how we can work together. What are the values? What are the conditions? What are the preconditions on working together? So that we see each other as equal partners. Establishing an equal partnership economy requires us to kind of step away from, those egoic drives of having to be right and considering possibilities from everybody in the circle, in the group. Now, a lot of times we spend a lot of time here just in possibility, and it's easy to get lost until you have the invitation conversation. So what is it that your path, your life, your experience, what are you inviting others, to explore with you? Or what are you inviting others, to do with you? So one of the things that we'll discuss later in this presentation as well is something called a matrix, where there are invitations on the left side of the grid, and there are values questions aligning with values at the top of the grid, and you start to talk about, together come up with the most desirable course of action. So I think that's very valuable for this conversation because I don't have the one answer. Everybody, if we consider that everybody truly does have value and everybody is a piece of the puzzle, then we all have a part of the solution. And I believe, creating the $1 quadrillion GDP, which is conservative, by the way, is a pathway towards, ending poverty, addressing some of the global environmental issues, and stopping starvation, stopping hunger. Then there's healthy dissension conversations. There's the dissent, where after going through appreciation, possibility, and invitation, there is an opportunity for everybody to speak honestly and authentically about, okay, what doesn't feel right, what is not quite in alignment with values, and they have their say. That's how you have equal say. And then there's the responsibility conversation, where at that point it's an equal collaboration of a free flow of energy between people. So that what you get to is the commitment, and that's where you actually start doing the do. Everything up until this point has been being the be, and if all of those conversations are in place, the commitment, the action becomes effortless. You've got people at your back, and one of the things I've been observing this year is that a lot of the reasons why proprietary solutions or proprietary action falls apart is because there's this hurry. Everyone's in a hurry to get to this commitment. And everybody's taking responsibility. But when you work backwards into dissent, there's not a healthy dissension process possible. So things start to fall apart. So by working in this natural way, starting with appreciation, possibility, and invitation, you set a strong foundation to go through the cycle of these 6 conversations over and over again, and deepen commitment and bring more power to the action. So there are core values, what guides these conversations. So, before I get into the results of this year and go into the story of how we got here this year, and then also go into the numbers, how time banking truly does make, the 1 quadrillion GDP possible, I'm going to ask that you consider some of these values. I'm not asking you to agree with them. I'm just asking you to entertain, some of these ideas that have been really playing out in the forefront of my mind as I've been speaking to 6, 7, 8 different groups, this past year. And that first value is inclusiveness, integrity, focus, emotional awareness, values-driven, progressive. So the first one, inclusiveness, there's this idea that we're entertaining that there's no throwaway people, that everybody has value. So somebody might be immersed in a power struggle. You might be disagreeing with them. You might be experiencing triggers or what I call, emotional distortions. But underneath all of that, everybody truly does have value. And one of the values I'm asking, everyone to entertain is inclusiveness, that underneath the triggers and underneath the conflict, there's a value from that person that's trying to be expressed. Integrity. We have a passion for transparency. So, as we start to explore our relationships and start to go a little deeper, one of my due norths, so to speak, we talk a lot about, what is the due north, is creating trust. What is it going to take to really, really trust each other? And, we work through those 6 conversations: appreciation, possibility, invitation, so that we can be more transparent with each other, because more opportunities will arise and become more powerful. The more honest we are with each other, and the more, it's not about the power struggle, but about finding the simple truths in the interaction. The focus comes in small groups. So one of the things I want to stress as I'm giving this report, and why I just want it to be simple, I'm not putting together a big presentation around this, is because you only have to connect with 2 or 3 people who are kind of on your same energy level, that same vibration. So, those of you who are not really attuned to that kind of conversation, you're probably going to turn this off right away. But, it doesn't take a lot. It just takes small groups meeting consistently and getting underneath the surface. So one of the things I'll be talking about later is, the key to generating, these stewardship conversations and generating a quadrillion dollar GDP is just participating and facilitating. And you go back and forth, is participate, facilitate, and log your hours. And that's the most powerful thing you can do. While everybody else is chasing after, millions of people on their platform, and trying to say and do the right thing, which, is not possible when you're trying to appeal to everybody. Focus on those 2 or 3 individuals, who've got your back, who you share something in common with. So the focus really is in cultivating small groups, and we're going to talk a lot about that in this report. The emotional awareness component is that when it comes to generating a global GDP of $1 to $5 quadrillion, I know that sounds like pie in the sky, and I will agree. In a competitive environment, which is what we are all kind of conditioned into, generating that much revenue is impossible. So, I'm not going to make that argument. I'm not going to contest that. In a competitive environment, $1 quadrillion is impossible. But in a collaborative environment, not only does it become possible, but it becomes the most likely outcome. Values driven. So values driven is our 5th value, because we have these conversations not to drive forth an initiative, but to find where the common values are, where are our strengths, and time is the asset. So when you want to talk about changing the paradigm and changing the value, time becomes the most valuable asset, more valuable than land, more valuable than gold, more valuable than data. Time becomes the asset. And as we're observing this, it's not a matter of proving, that we can change the paradigm. It's more just revealing that how we spend our time, what we choose to do when we spend our time, is what makes all the difference. And that just comes down to you personally, you listening right now. Progressive. Our financial system is simply just a psychological and social construct. It's complicated, and it's intentionally meant to be complicated to devalue time. But the more we look at how it really is just a construct, we can reimagine it. And that's what we'll be focusing on at the end of our conversation today, is how do we do that? How do we reimagine the financial system so that it's not about ownership, it's not about power struggles, it's about stewardship, protecting, taking care of, what really matters. So that is the end of my offering for today. I will be back tomorrow to give you the results of this past week. This past year. How many members we have generated this past year, how many hours we've generated, and where we're going into 2022. So one thing I will also ask as I end, this first portion of the report is, how much do you think your time is really worth? How much do you think 1 hour is really worth? Okay, so I'm going to repeat that one more time. How much do you think your hour is really worth? All right, thank you again for listening. I will be back tomorrow with part 2 of 12 of this report. Again, this is Michael Schuman. I am the coordinator of the Karmic Margin Call Project.